The Nintendo Switch 2 has been officially revealed. Let's talk about the good, the bad, and the head-scratching decisions on today's episode of Gaming Talk. So there's a lot to unpack after today's Nintendo Direct that went over all kinds of major things in regards to the Nintendo Switch 2. I will probably miss something that you probably find is important, and I apologize for that, but I'm just going over the information that I know off the top of my head. I'm not looking at a script or anything. That's typically what I do with these types of videos. I just talk and share my thoughts on things, and people seem to enjoy it for the most part, so here we go. Well, the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct was pretty good. I'd say mostly in terms of the actual Direct, I think people were pretty excited about it. There were some big game reveals. There was some exciting things revealed about the system itself. And then afterwards is when things kind of started to go downhill. So first off, the system. It's coming out on June 5th, 2025, so a couple months away. Honestly, a much closer turnaround than you would normally expect, especially when you compare it to the most recent systems that launched, the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. Those were announced around E3 and didn't come out until November. So this one to only have a 2-month gap between full reveal and release is pretty awesome. Now, in terms of launch lineup, not a whole lot is known except for one thing, and that, of course, is Mario Kart World. That is the first big game that was revealed. It was the game that had by far the most time spent on it, and it's getting its own Direct in a couple weeks. So, if you want to learn more about Mario Kart World, we will find out in a couple weeks after that Direct. It's also where we found our first little bit of controversy, but again, we'll get to that. So it comes out on June 5th. The system is going to have 2 different bundles, at least in the United States. Of course, I live in the United States, so that's where I'm getting my information from. Things might be a little different in different territories. But here in the States, it's going to be, I believe it was $450 for the base version and $500 for the version that comes bundled with Mario Kart World, which is not bad. It's a little bit higher than we expected. I personally expected it to be $400 for the base, and then maybe $450 with a game. So it's $50 more than I expected it would be. It's not the end of the world. When you consider the fact that the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series both launched at $500, it's about on par. Plus, I mean, this is a portable system. It's very powerful, has a lot of impressive tech in it. I get it. I mean, the pricing makes sense in many respects for the console. But here's where the good news ends. The games. They revealed that Mario Kart World is going to cost $80 digitally. And supposedly it might cost an additional $10 physically. Meaning, if you want a physical copy of Mario Kart World, you're going to have to cough up $90. That's a lot. People were already balking at the $70 game cost, which is why a lot of us do the sensible thing and just wait until it drops below $70. But first of all, Nintendo games rarely drop in price, so it'll probably stick at $80 forever. And second of all, $80 for a digital copy seems like a lot. Now granted, Mario Kart World has a lot going on. It's the first open world Mario Kart. There's 24-player multiplayer. It looks gorgeous. Everything they've revealed about the new Mario Kart looks awesome, and I will absolutely be buying it with my Switch 2, but that's a lot of money, and I think a lot of people are going to be turned off by the fact that it costs that much for that game. Especially when the Switch, except for Tears of the Kingdom, has maintained that $60 price. Tears of the Kingdom was the first one that went up to $70, and people were upset about that. Well, I guess that was the appetizer, as now Nintendo is teasing $80 and $90 games. Oof. It's not the first negative, but we'll get to some more in a sec. So what's new on the Switch 2? What's exciting about it? Well, of course, the hardware is pretty impressive. It can support 4K when docked, 1080 when not. LCD screen, it's a 7.2-inch display, so it looks a lot better. It has a bigger screen. The Joy-Cons are magnetic and they have a little release lever, so it should be much easier to remove and reattach Joy-Cons to your Switch. Plus, they look to be a lot more stable. That was always one of the big concerns, and I'm very lucky. For all of my Switches, I have never broken one. But there have been several times where, like, I try to get, especially those rail attachments off of the Joy-Con, and I'm just worried it's going to break or it's going to get stuck and I can't remove it. So I think they've kind of fixed that with the new Joy-Con design. They also made the little buttons on the inside much bigger, which is good because, yeah, try using that without the rail attachment, the wrist strap attachment. No, you can't do it. So that's good. Up to 120 frames per second, which is pretty wild. I did not expect that. I was expecting maybe 60, and not even all games would support 60 frames. But up to 120. Extra charge port on the top of the system. Not only can it mean you can charge your Switch 2 while playing in tabletop mode, but also it's there to utilize the new Switch 2 camera. A new camera attachment you can put on the side, and it allows you to essentially play, using a camera. And certain games use it, including the new voice chat service. That's what the C button does. Everyone was wondering, what does the new C button do? It's for chat. Makes sense. So you can do video chat. You can also, kind of green screen yourself into games. It's interesting. I don't know how I feel about it. I think a lot of it's going to depend on how well it actually performs, which we won't know until the system comes out. But they claim that the new voice chat system is going to work quite well. Even when you're far away from your system, the microphone on the system will pick up your voice very well. I don't know. I think a lot of that remains to be seen. I'm skeptical, as a lot of people are, but we'll find out once we actually get to test it out. Then we get to the games. And besides Mario Kart, there were some pretty interesting reveals. There's a brand new From Software game, which is the developer of Elden Ring, that is releasing exclusively on the Switch 2 in 2026. That was a shocker. No one really expected that. And then in addition to Mario Kart, which we knew about from the reveal trailer, they also confirmed 2 first-party Nintendo games that are going to be coming out in 2025. And one of them is a lot closer than we think. So the first is going to be Kirby Air Riders. It is a brand new entry in the Kirby Air Ride franchise. I guess now it is a franchise because there's 2 of them. Kirby Air Ride was a game that came out on the GameCube. I actually have a copy of it. And it's essentially Kirby Mario Kart. Well, now we're getting Kirby Mario Kart again in the same year that Mario Kart is coming out on the Switch 2. That's pretty awesome. It's also directed by Sakurai, who's the director of the Super Smash Bros. Series, so that's pretty cool. That's coming out sometime in 2025. The other big game, and I think that's the one that people are a bit more excited about, is Donkey Kong Bonanza. It is a brand new 3D Donkey Kong platformer. And it is coming out in July. So we don't have to wait long for that. Literally a month after the Switch comes out, and we already have a brand new Mario Kart, we're getting a brand new 3D Donkey Kong game. That's pretty sick. In addition to that, they revealed kind of their release strategy for how they're going to split games up when it comes to Switch and Switch 2. So, of course, we have digital games. We have Switch games. So, standard Nintendo Switch, and that's not really changing. Then you have Switch 2 games, which are exclusively playable on Switch 2. Now, they did say that the way to differentiate the two is the Switch 2 case is going to look a little different. The game cart is going to be red, and it's going to support higher data transfer. There is a controversy on that too, but we'll talk about that in a sec. And then the third type is Switch 2 enhanced versions of Switch games, which they've already revealed a handful of them. The 4 that they've already talked about so far are Super Mario Party Jamboree, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, which is getting a, like, Bowser's Fury-ish expansion, apparently. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom are both getting Switch 2 variants. I believe they're doing physicals of all of those. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe so. And then on top of that, 2 games that haven't been released are getting both original Switch and Switch 2 variants. And those are Metroid Prime 4 and Pokemon Legends ZA. They also announced a handful of titles that are going to be getting upgrades on the Switch 2, one of which is Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Thank you. Hopefully they'll actually perform well for once. But, so it's interesting. It's also a little bit confusing as to whether these are going to be free upgrades or not. They haven't fully determined that. At least we haven't fully learned that yet. Here's the Zelda ones. If you have Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild, you'll get a free upgrade to the Switch 2 versions. At least that's what it seems like. For Mario Party, Super Mario Party Jamboree and Kirby and the Forgotten Land, apparently there's like an upgrade you can purchase. I'm guessing it's for probably around $10 that allows you to play the Switch 2 version with the additional content with your Switch 1 cart. So it's kind of like what Sony's doing on the PlayStation 5, where they're making you pay for PS5 upgrades for PS4 games. Kind of a similar thing. I don't agree with that. I mean, especially because, again, good guy Microsoft, who is not charging for upgrades, they're just like, hey, if you have an Xbox One and if there's an Xbox Series upgrade, you get it. Don't have to pay extra for it. So I don't know why these other 2 companies decide that that's a necessity, but I guess they want more money. I don't know. So that's interesting. Now, here's another controversy that has been discovered, and that is apparently they're doing some games. Now, originally we thought it might be all. Thankfully, that is not the case. But some games are going to be considered game keys. Now, what this means is that the physical version of a game will not contain the game. You insert the cart into your system, and it allows you to download the game off of the eShop. And you can play that game as long as you have that game card inserted into your system. So essentially, it allows you to play a downloaded game. Now, the nice thing is, unlike a downloaded game, you can take out the cart, put it in a different system, and re-download the game. You can also sell the cart. So it's kind of a hybrid of the virtual cart system that we learned about last week at the Nintendo Direct, and then physical. I'm not a fan of it. I personally think that they should have games on physical hardware. I know we're used to you have to have a mandatory download of some kind in order to play a game. I get that, and it's annoying. It's mostly just everybody thinking about the distant future when the online stores for these different systems are shut down. Like, what's going to happen, especially on, like, look at the Xbox One or the PlayStation 4. All these games that require content download to play. What happens when the store shuts down? Are all of our physical games just going to be unplayable then? That's the question. So that's why I'm not a huge fan of this whole process. Plus, it's just kind of a slap in the face for those of us who want to collect physical media. It's like, hey, here's your physical media that's not physical media. I don't know. It's a stupid thing. I don't agree with it, but, it's Nintendo being Nintendo, I guess. And then, of course, they did like a sizzle reel of a bunch of other games. One of the interesting ones they revealed was I like to call it Murder Ball the game. If you don't know what Murder Ball is, it's a documentary that came out in the 2000s about a paraplegic basketball league. And essentially, that's what this is, except you're using the Joy-Con 2s as mice to, like, maneuver your wheelchair, and then you play basketball. Interesting concept. We'll see how it turns out. If it's fun, I'll probably play it, probably won't get a physical release, but if it does, I'll probably get it. Oh, another interesting little controversy is they announced a game tutorial. Now, of course, when you think about a tutorial or like a hardware showcase game, the first thing that should come to mind is Astro's Playroom from the PlayStation 5, because that was a brilliant way to do it. It was free. It was a pack-in game you can download at any time for free. And not only was it a fun game to play, but it also really showcased what the PlayStation 5 and specifically the DualSense controller was capable of. Nintendo's trying to do that with the Nintendo Switch 2. The difference is, it's not free. There's a game tutorial that you have to pay for. Why would you want to pay for a tutorial? Make that make sense, Nintendo. I don't get it. I think that's a really dumb move. I think if people want to learn how to use the system that they just bought, that should be included with the price. And especially if you want this game to actually sell, you should have just included it with the system, not make people buy it off the eShop in order to play essentially a tutorial on how the system works. That doesn't make a lick of sense. But, you know, Nintendo's got to do something wrong, I guess. So, that's pretty much everything. So there's some really good stuff, some exciting games. It's coming out soon. The hardware is impressive. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention some other hardware stuff. They're making a new Pro Controller, which I will absolutely buy, because aside from my favorite controller of all time, which is the Xbox Series controller, I absolutely adore the Switch Pro Controller, because it does have the offset sticks, which I love. It feels really good. It has, by far, the best battery life of any controller. And it doesn't take that long to fully charge it. It's just an amazing controller. The new one is basically the same thing, except it has a C button. It also has back paddles, so essentially they took the standard Switch Pro controller and made it like the DualSense Edge or the Xbox Elite controller and gave you customizable back paddles, which is pretty awesome. One other big thing that was revealed today, which some people are really excited about, and I freely admit it's a pretty cool feature. They are adding GameCube games to Switch Online, which is cool. There's some good and some bad to that. Of course, you have to have the expansion pass, which I have never bought the expansion pass, mostly because it's a lot of extra money, and aside from a couple, you do get the booster course pass, which I've never bought, so I guess that kind of makes it worth it. I did buy the Animal Crossing DLC, and of course you get like N64 and Game Boy, which, that's cool and all. I've never actually used NSO's games, so I don't know. But GameCube might actually change my mind. They've announced a bunch of big games, including Wind Waker, which a lot of people take as a sign that we're never going to get Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD. I wouldn't say that. I think there's still a good chance we might get those, but because I think there's other games where there's a remake on the Switch, but there's also the standard version. Well, so, it happens, but hopefully we will get Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD on the Switch. That would be pretty awesome. But we're also getting Pokemon Coliseum, Pokemon XD, Gale of Darkness, Chibi Robo, F-Zero GX. So a bunch of really expensive physical GameCube games you can just play on NSO, which is great. Maybe it will cause the market to decrease a bit, because people can now easily play these games rather than spending hundreds of dollars for a physical copy. We'll see what happens. It'll be interesting to follow the market on that. And of course, they're also releasing a Nintendo Switch Store exclusive wireless GameCube controller, which I'm not gonna lie, those wireless Switch controllers based on the older console controllers, I haven't been particularly interested in until that one. I might have to get one of those, at least one, maybe a couple, depending on what GameCube games they put on there. Like if they put Smash, might have to get 4. But those are probably going to be hard to find. Those drop on Switch 2 launch day on June 5th, only on the Nintendo Online Store, so that will probably sell out pretty quickly, but we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll try to get one. But yeah, that's everything, I believe, when it comes to the Nintendo Switch reveal today. There's definitely some good. I like the hardware stuff. The games look great. There's a lot to be happy about. There's some bad. The pricing of the games kind of sucks. Some of the things that they're doing kind of suck. Having to pay for a tutorial, that pretty much sucks. So there's definitely some up and down news when it comes to that. Of course, I did find it interesting they didn't reveal any of the negative stuff that was revealed until after the fact. Because of course, they want everybody to be hyped after that direct. It's a very Disney tactic where you keep the bad news for the blog post after. That's exactly what Nintendo did. They're like, yeah, we'll talk about the bad stuff later. But overall, I'd say it was pretty good. Now, just a little, I guess, kind of an announcement. I'll use this as an announcement for this because it makes sense. I'm going to be doing a brand new series on this channel, and it is actually a spin-off of the Bargain Game Hunter. And naturally, it involves the Switch too. So, I thought about this idea a while ago. I didn't end up going through with it because I keep finding enough stuff to just spend my credit on. But I want to essentially go to pawn shops, everywhere I could go, my usual game hunt methods, and find enough stuff to trade into GameStop to fully pay off not only a Switch 2, but also, you know, all the games, all the controllers, all the stuff that you would want for your launch day Switch 2. And of course, when the Switch 2 comes out, I will be doing, assuming I get one, which I should get one. I actually took the day off on April 9th, which is pre-order day, in order to go to my local GameStop before they open and make sure I get a pre-order down on the Switch 2. So I should be able to get a pre-order down, which is exciting. So yeah, look for all that. That is coming. The first episode of that will probably air in the next week or two. So yeah, look for that in addition to Bargain Game Hunter episodes, because I've actually got a whole bunch of Bargain Game Hunter videos that have not yet to be released. So look for those in addition to the brand new Nintendo Switch 2 series. So anyway, that's going to do it for this episode of Gaming Talk. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button. Click the notification bell. That way you know when new videos drop. I will see you on the next episode of Gaming Talk. Bye-bye.